extra one and say, okay, well, we can get 2 hamburgers over here for the same amount of price.
Why is it that you can buy a double cheeseburger at McDonald's for 99 cents and you can't even get a head of broccoli for 99 cents?
You haven't read the stories that you haven't listened to my show, because we talk about this almost every week, some sort of article that comes out, whether it be that one story that we had about them putting the same chemicals that you spray on your windows, ammonia. They put ammonia in this meat that's just left on the floor, after they, chop the cows. They grab all the excess stuff off the floor, they put it together, put it in one heap of stuff, and then they shoot ammonia into it, the same ammonia that you put on your windows to clean, and then they sell that to McDonald's, and then that's the meat that you eat. So, if you think it's USDA approved, do you know what USDA approved means? Now, the USDA, the Office of the Inspector General, has dropped a bombshell. Although to him, it's not a bombshell, which is hilarious. He recently issued a shocking report, and I have the link for all this at USDA.gov, about the condition of the nation's industrial meat supply. It turns out that a lot of the U.S. meat supply is tainted with veterinary drugs, pesticides, and heavy metals. Now, wait a minute.
But wanted to make this quick video, seen a video on YouTube, wanted to try it myself, didn't quite believe it until I tried it myself, and oh my goodness, I was shocked. But I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick so everybody can see that you can do this at your own home, to see that these people are not playing. They want to kill you, they want to poison you through the water, through the food, through whatever means, through the chemtrails. They are on a full-fledged agenda, and they are keeping to it. Check this out. Here's a bag of cereal, honeycombs, some wheat bran flakes. All you really need is one, and throw it in a plate of water, and take your neodymium magnet. Hold on, try to get this stuff a little better organized. Alright, sorry about that. And pull it toward the honeycomb and watch as it follows the magnet. Now, anybody know anything about science and magnetism and all these things? You know that if there was no metal content in this, then it would not be able to be driven around this plate as though I'm steering and guiding it. Amazing. Amazing. Now, that's the honeycomb, garbage.
What you're really going to die from is the aggregate toxicity that is in the air, the water, and mostly the food that you voluntarily put in your body. So when I tell you that it's not the SARS or the monkeypox or the West Nile virus, I'm not kidding. It's the food. The number one thing that affects most of our health, unless you're a heroin addict or a dead drunk, it's food. It's what we do 3 times a day. And even the food that you think is good for you probably isn't. And I'm not talking about carbs. It's not about carbs. It's about poisons. It's about preservatives. It's about things that are not natural, that your body can't digest, can't get rid of. And all I can say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not pretending to be one. I will just give you my anecdotal evidence.
These chemical additives that are in the food that you buy from Kraft, from Del Monte, every single major, Jolly Green Giant, Hershey's, the Doritos, all the big food companies, they're owned by Cargill, Monsanto. They're genetically modified food loaded with poisons and toxins. And if you say, well, I got aches and pains, and I'm sick, and I got cancer, and I got this, and I got that, and I look at you and I go, well, no kidding. Why do you think you're going to be healthy? I mean, you're eating Kraft macaroni and cheese, you're going to McDonald's, you're going to Burger King, you're going to Taco Bell, you're eating food that's genetically modified, which we know causes cancer and illness. You're taking non-prescription and prescription drugs. We know that causes illness and disease. You're eating food with preservatives, you're microwaving the food, you're buying frozen dinners. All the ingredients, when you add them all together at the end of the week, you are at toxic levels, and even the FDA admits it's toxic.
First, the U.S. has been adding fluoride to its public water supply for decades, and as of course to prevent tooth decay. Well, now researchers from Japan are suggesting that we add lithium. So why is that?
Well, they're actually not suggesting it, but they're certainly looking into it. Lithium is a medication that in prescription doses treats mood disorders in people with bipolar disorder or manic depressive illness. And what these researchers found in Japan is that lithium is present in trace amounts in the normal water supply in some communities. And in those communities, they have a lower suicide rate. And so they're really investigating whether trace amounts of lithium can just change the mood in a community enough to really, in a positive way, without having the bad effects of lithium, to really affect the mood and decrease the suicide rate. Very interesting concept. You know, it's the same reason why we put iodine in salt, fluoride in water. There's many different examples of where we put trace amounts of chemicals in the normal supply of food or water to help people's health.
And you talk a lot about fluoride in the water. I talk about fluoride in the water. We talk about the genetically modified food, how it caused illnesses and disease, the antibiotics in meat and dairy, the bovine growth hormone in meat and dairy. You know, why do we have such obesity in America? The report came out 2 days ago that said in the next 7 years, over 50% of Americans are going to be not just fat or overweight, obese.
66% of the United States residents' public water is fluoridated. It is known to have tremendous effects on bone cancer, joint problems, bone weakness, lowered estrogen and testosterone levels, and dental fluorosis, which is yellowing of the teeth and pitting in the enamel. Wouldn't it make more sense to enhance public water with vitamins which are meant to be ingested to promote overall health, rather than putting such a toxic chemical in our water with a bogus explanation that it will improve our dental health? We now know that fluoride causes more dental problems than it solves. Something doesn't seem right about this. Do you honestly believe that these companies care deeply enough for the people to spend large amounts of their own money to fluoridate public water when the people already purchase their own toothpaste? But there's a difference between toothpaste and drinking water. We don't ingest toothpaste. If you go to any hardware store and look at any rat poison product, you will only find one ingredient: sodium fluoride. It is the most toxic ionic molecule outside of potassium dichromate. Now Dannon, along with other companies, have begun fluoridating bottled water. It is becoming increasingly difficult to get away from. And the fact that fluoride is also used in many prescription antidepressants shows that it eliminates aggression and motivation in people.
Fluoride, to my knowledge as a physician, has absolutely no biological benefit whatsoever.
But one of the significant things is that the Russians carried out all sorts of experiments on people living in the Gulag. One of them, of course, was to fluoridate the water. Why? You fluoridate the water, why people are not as aggressive as they ordinarily would be. In fact, what is the active ingredient in Prozac that is so widely distributed in America today? Why, it's a fluoride compound.
And now, we are finding that public water nationwide is showing up with arsenic, lead, cadmium, and thermonium, which is a radioactive form of lead. Cancer, lowered sex drive, birth defects, sedation, and brain defects. Does this not sound like a wonder drug for anyone aiming to control a population?
It's quite astonishing, Paul, the degree to which environmentalists have not been educated about fluoride. You know, people have an unconscious trust in their doctor or their dentist, and if you can persuade doctors and dentists that fluoride is safe and good, then you're able to reach the rest of the nation. People believe their doctors and dentists, and that was a way of promoting fluoride for Bernays. Fluoride was killing their cattle, destroying their crops. Fluoride given to rats had produced bone cancer and liver cancer, and that those results had been doctored to make it look as though fluoride hadn't caused as much cancer.
The pattern that we saw It typically is what we see with other neurotoxic agents that are well known to cause a hypoactivity or a memory problem or an IQ problem. When I first presented the results of these studies, one of the individuals sitting and listening to the results, he says, "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" And he says, "You're telling us that we're reducing the IQ of children." And basically I said, yes.
Aspartame, the artificial sweetener found in almost every low-sugar or sugar-free product on the market.
First of all, aspartame is made up of three things: methanol, which of course is what produces blindness, aspartic acid, and phenylalanine. These are all poisons. Aspartic acid, of course, produces brain lesions. This was known back in the early 1970s. Methanol produces blindness. Phenylalanine is what you see in the brain, and in high dosage it produces trauma.
We're not making this all up. The FDA did publish back in, I think it was in the 80s, they did publish the 92 potential side effects of aspartame. And they do, these side effects are quite, are extremely serious. Things like dizziness, problems with balance, abdominal pain and cramps, changes in vision, seizures and convulsions, etc., etc.
Yet despite all of these harmful effects, Donald Rumsfeld pushed it out into the stores in over 5,000 products when he was CEO of Searly, the company that manufactured aspartame.
Now, I'm not going to get into the whole article here, which is a good article, but consider this. Last year, drug companies spent $8 billion on advertising. $8 billion. Hello? Lipitor alone brought in $60 billion in sales. $60 billion, and that's because of the ads. And that's a dangerous drug. And anybody listening who's taken Lipitor or a cholesterol-reducing medication, I don't want to call you a moron or an ignoramus or a fool. All I want to say is you are being misled, brainwashed, and are misinformed. Taking that drug is causing more damage. High cholesterol is not a problem. The drug you are taking for cholesterol is the problem. Read the drug company's own literature. Here's the point. What this article demonstrates is that the news is owned by the manufacturers. Why do you think? I was on ManCow today, and he says, why does the news go after you, KT? I said, who do you think is sponsoring the news? The drug companies own the newsrooms. The drug companies control the news. Because if the news said something bad about the drug companies would pull the advertising, and there's nobody to walk in and take their place.
What Fox Television told us was that we were just the people to be the investigators.
Do any stories you want, ask tough questions, and get answers. So I thought, this is great. This is a dream job. Fantastic. The very first thing they had us do was not to research stories, but to shoot this promo.